beliefs.
Final and most conclusive proof that what I'm telling you is the truth from the Bible. Europeans are the Israelites.
Here it comes.
Disproof.
Here it comes.
This is
The principal component analysis of modern West Eurasians, showing us exactly how the Shemite populations work. The Shemite populations are everyone on here. Everyone I've talked about that's being a Shemite is listed here. You have over here Levantine and Shemite populations, Caucasians, Iranian, Turkish, Mizrahi Jewish, North Levantine, South Levantine, Arabian. Then you have the Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews in between this cluster of 12 and those Shemite populations, exactly where Edom is to be. These are the Ishmaelites over on the right-hand side. These are the Edomites in the middle.
These are the 12 tribes of Israel in the red circle.
East Slavic, Baltic, Central European, Germanic, Balkan, French, Italian, especially North Italy, Sicilian, Spanish, South French, Basque, Sardinian. These 12 pools share not just a common paternal line, but a common total genetic heritage. The autosomal DNA of thousands of years living together as a people. 10 of 12 of these pools have R as their single highest Y-DNA haplogroup, and all of them have haplogroup R at least as a co-dominant. The Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jewish populations appear outside the European circle, positioned between European and Levantine clusters, consistent with Edomite, mixed Shemite ancestry. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Ada the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Holibama the daughter of Anna, and the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. Also Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. So he took 2 Canaanite women and an Ishmaelite, and as a result, his genetics over time pulled out of the cluster. Look at the 12 tribes from 1200 to about 1050 BC. Notice how they cluster together and then are surrounded by the peoples, the other groups, and Edom is close but not part of them. Edom's down there in the south, close but not part of them. Exactly what the genetics, modern genetics, are showing. 12 groups, 12 tribes. Figure 1b from Lazarides et al., 2015, shows us that they have maintained their 12-tribe genetic signature, closely clustering with each other, Edom just outside, and the rest of the Shemites even further. Europeans are the Israelites of the Bible. Europeans are the 12 tribes. All of those groups I listed, those are the 12 tribes. They're all dominant or co-dominant haplogroup R. The Holy Spirit has made this evident now in these last days. This is the rattling. This sermon and these studies are the rattling.
Black Hebrew Israelites love to claim that they're the true Israelites and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, they look at Revelation and say, oh, Jesus, he had legs like bronze. Which, you know, us, we can turn pretty bronze when we're in the sun. But, you know, they don't finish the verse as Mr. Rich Tidwell said, Pastor Rich Tidwell. It says something along the lines like molten bronze. Like it's melted, it's on fire. So that looks like this. Not anything like being black. And then they say, oh, well, Jesus, his hair was like woo and shit. So, you know, our hair, our pube hair, you know, it be like woo and shit. But, you know, they don't complete that either because it says white like wool and a head white. So his head was white as well. His face was white. And then you got, you know, the Bible describing Solomon and his wife and David and so on. And they're described as being white like milk, the women white like snow, King Solomon having a white stomach like ivory, and him and his wife being white like alabaster, and their eyes being blue because it's like a river or a pool. David described as ruddy, you know, red, ruddy. Adam, the name Adam means ruddy, you know, so it means to blush, and we're the ones that blush. So, you know, you don't got much Black Hebrew Israelites. And then you got this olive group of 12 people. The Europeans, the 12 tribes. And the Bible also says where the Israelites went to. And we went to Europe. So, there's a lot of evidence showing that it's us. And if you can see in that group, the Ashkenazis, they are outside of that group. So it's not them. So it's us. Sorry, Black Hebrew Israelites, but the only evidence that we have for Jesus being black is that he's God and, we're his children. And he went away. He went away. And we're his children. And we've been waiting 2,000 years for him to come back. So, yeah, that's the only evidence we have for him being black.
Hey, black men. So I duetted a video the other day, and I'm going to expand on that. This creator was talking about how she believes that there is something that the government doesn't want us to know. Maybe the government, maybe like the rich 1%ers, the people in power, that hold all the power, don't want us to know about black people and something that is extremely special, extremely superhuman that you all have. I 100% agree. And I actually made a video about it after I saw Sinners, because I saw that movie and it's something that I've been thinking of for many, 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 many years. But Sinners just brought it more to my attention, how unique you are, how vibrant you are, how under stress, under duress, under the kind of stress that most people can't even manage to think about, much less live through. You guys not only live through, but you succeed, you excel, you thrive. And there's something I think that you have in your genetic makeup, not just your melanin. I mean, maybe it has something to do with melanin, but there's something else inside of you that makes you so unique, so special, so smart, so talented, so funny. Like, I can go on and on and on. And I think there's no way that racism, all the horrible things that happen and happened and still happen because of racism, is just because of the color of your skin. There's no way.
All right, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom. This is your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, coming with another lesson through the Spirit. Lord willing, to be edifying to the Lord's elect. Before I get started with this lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha HaKodash, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and who teach well. Excuse me, who teach well. Shalom to the Akim out there that's pushing the truth, that's laboring in the word, and is pushing the gospel of the great kingdom that's soon to come. Shalom to the Yakwath that's listening in, that's remaining true to the faith and remaining faithful and submissive to their husbands and guiding their children. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes that scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. To you Israelite foreigners out there, who live among the heathen and who look like those heathen nations. All right? You've all been scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. All right? But your lineage goes back to the progenitors of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel through the line of your fathers. I want to say peace and blessings to you all, Barak Atham. All right? And the 12 tribes of Israel consists largely of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, Hispanics, and Seminole Indians. All right? And indeed, you have all been scattered abroad. Okay? So, pretty much, I've been debating whether or not I would tackle this situation with Rich Tidwell, you know what I'm saying? Because he's pretty much starting a whole trend on social media, you know what I'm saying, where these Edomites are starting to think that they themselves are the true children of Israel, okay? And while they're separating themselves from these Amalekites, all right, okay, who calls themselves JOOs. You see what I'm saying? And so his line of reasoning is so far out there, you know what I'm saying? All right. None of it is scriptural, you know what I'm saying? None of it is going into all the prophecies that are relating to the Israelites, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're going to talk about who are the children of Israel, then you have to dive into what is written about them, what would happen to them. You see what I'm saying? What would take place regarding these people? Okay, because he goes in another video that the elder had did previously. All right, in the clip, the dude Rich Tidwell, he talks about, you know what I'm saying, he says he makes a couple points which I wrote down, you know what I'm saying, but he started off in the clip saying that the world has taught you to hate so-called white people because Europeans are the Israelites of the Bible. Well, how can that be? How can that be? How, you know what I'm saying, if the world has taught you to hate hate these people, the scriptures clearly tell you that Edom would be greatly despised. You see what I'm saying? But not because of, you know what I'm saying, not because of the fact that they have a particular, you know, you know, skin complexion or lack of pigmentation, all right? But because of what they did, because of what they do. You see what I'm saying? In every every prophecy, you go to the book of Habakkuk, you go to the book of Micah, you go to Obadiah, you go to even Revelation. All right, you go to all these different places. You know what I'm saying? Ezekiel. It's all talking about the ill-gotten gains and the you know, the unrighteous dealings. Okay. That will be performed around the world by a particular group of people. You see what I'm saying? And unbeknownst to you know, these dudes on the screen, Rich Tidwell and this and this baby face on the side, you know what I'm saying? All right. Unbeknownst to them, they're the same stock as these Amalekites. You see what I'm saying? If you want to talk about Europe, if you want to talk about what went down in Europe, you know what I'm saying, you have to actually go into the history of what went down in Europe. You know what I'm saying? You have to go into who was ruling, what was going down during the Dark Ages. All right? What happened after the fall of Rome? You see what I'm saying? Like I said, I didn't even know how I was going to tackle this thing, man. You know what I'm saying? It's so nuanced. You know what I'm saying? It was going to take a minute to break down all of this, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to spend too much time on this. All right. But the name of this video from the elder Manatazakba is Rich Tidwell and White Supremacy. The Israelites are still in captivity, you devils. All right. This is his YouTube channel. GMS South Carolina 08. Subscribe and be edified, man. All right, so with that, let's get into the lesson. Bear with me. So one of the points that Rich Tidwell makes, of course, when going into the famed scripture of Revelation chapter 1, all right, and he goes into saying that his head and his hair was white like wool, all right, white as snow. You know, what he goes on to say is that that's talking about his head and not the hair on his head. Okay? It's talking about the head and not the hair on his head. Well, let's read it. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 11, it says, let's start at verse 10. It says, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet, saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, and what thou seest write in the book, and send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and unto Smyrna, and unto Pergamos, and unto Thyatira, and unto Sardis, and unto Philadelphia, and into Laodicea. Slaki, it's kind of hard to pronounce some of those words. It says, verse 12, and I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as the flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Okay? So his feet was like unto fine brass, as it was burned in a furnace, as if they burned in a furnace, man. Okay? Now let me show you. I believe I still have it. I want to show you a quick video of burned brass. All right, bear with me. All right, so this is a quick video of a bullet casing. All right, and a bullet casing is made of fine brass. All right. I asked a quick question on Google saying, are bullet cases made of brass? And it says yes. Bullet cases are commonly made of brass, which is favored for its elasticity and ability to create a better seal in the chamber when fired. Okay? So let's watch this video real quick. All right, so I'm going to read this again. Revelation 1:14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as the flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. All right. So let's go to the book of Daniel real quick. All right, let's go to Daniel chapter 10. Okay, Daniel chapter 10 and verse 5, it reads, Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning. All right, and his eyes as lamps of fire. Let me show you real quick. All right, just to give you a quick illustration. It says his body was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet, and his arms and his feet, like in color to polished brass. all right, like in color to polished brass, all right. So we just saw brass, all right, as it was burned, okay. Eyes as flames of fire, okay, and the hairs of his head were white like wool, all right. It says his head and his hairs. So you go into the crown of the head and his hairs, all right, which goes into what? Goes into his facial hair. All right. They were white like wool. Let's go to, let me see. All right, let's go into the book of Daniel, chapter 7, and verse 9. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. It's talking about the hair of his head. So when it says his hair and his head and his hairs, it's talking about the crown of his head, okay? The hair on his head, it was like the pure wool. And then it goes into the hairs on his face, okay? His head and his hairs were white like wool. Again, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. All right, let me give you another example of this. Bear with me. Okay? So again, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. All right, the Ancient of Days did sit. That's talking about the Heavenly Father, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. All right. So, you know what you can clearly see when dealing with this guy, Rich Tidwell. You know what I'm saying? It's obvious that he has been taking. All right. It's evident that he's been taking talking points from the Hebrew Israelites. You see what I'm saying? Specifically from the men of Great Millstone. Specifically from the men of Great Millstone. You see what I'm saying? And so, what he has done, because either he has been listening to not just one, all right, but multiple men of Great Millstone and the men of likewise doctrine. It's not just one. He's been listening to many. Okay. And if that's not the case, he has most certainly been given a script. Okay, he has been given a script to run with by the powers that be. Okay. And of course, two things can be right at the same time. All right, two things can be true at the same time. So, you know what I'm saying? There's no coincidence in the fact that many of these talking points, okay, are mirroring the talking points that we make. Okay. And so what we're seeing is that what we're seeing here is these Edomites, all right, these Edomites are extremely desperate in these last days, man. They're extremely desperate because he started off by saying that the world hates white people. You know what I'm saying? Well, why does the world hate white people? You know what I'm saying? And then you saw the other video, the other video that the elder had put inside his lesson with the lady. All right, the lady who was speaking on so-called black men, saying that there's something special about them, you know. And I found it spiritual. I found it spiritual that she mentioned the movie Sinners, all right, because that was a very spiritual movie in itself, all right. But if you remember, all right, if you can remember, the in the beginning of the movie, all right, it started off with the Gadites who was hunting down this vampire. Okay, but when the vampire makes his way to the cabin, okay, he made his way into this cabin with these Edomites. Okay, and they saw him. They saw him come over, and they allowed him in. Okay, and they sent off the Gadites. You know what I'm saying? And they kept the vampire inside the house instead of taking heed to the warning, all right, that was coming from these so-called Native Americans. And of course, the vampire proceeds to eat these people, all right, both of them inside the cabin, and that was the beginning of the movie. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, both the northern and the southern tribes are highly spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Extremely spiritual, man. But when you look at the Edomite, all right, the Edomite is known for destruction. So while they're going around saying that, oh yeah, you know, we forgot who we are. We was in this cluster of land all throughout Europe. You know what I'm saying? That's not what the scriptures say. The scriptures doesn't say that you would just be clustered up in this one plot of land. You know what I'm saying? And then just so happen to be in America. No. The scriptures say that the Israelites would be scattered and they would go into captivity. You see what I'm saying? They would go into captivity. The fastest way to identify who the children of Israel are is to go into the prophecies that are written concerning them. You see what I'm saying? That's the fastest way to identify the Israelites. And you have to read these curses that pertain to them, because the scriptures clearly tell you that the Israelites would be under a curse. And you can't look at these at these so-called minority groups, if you will, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, and not say that this is a cursed people. You know what I'm saying? And as I brought out in camp earlier today, you have to tell the whole truth, man. You can't water down this truth because one person is not dark enough, or is not the exact complexion that you think is supposed to be an Israelite. You know what I'm saying? Straight up and down. No. Through the act of scattering, you know what I'm saying? Through the curse of being scattered, we were going to end up looking like other people. You see? You can read that in the book of Baruch. You can read that in in Daniel. I brought that out at camp earlier this morning. You know what I'm saying? Okay? You can read it all throughout the scriptures, man. He said that he would scatter us. He said that we would become a reproach, man. He said that we would become a byword and a proverb among all the nations. He said that. Right? I'm just get a couple of these curses, man, and see if it identifies. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 17. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Let's start at verse 16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. You know what I'm saying? We can't get loans like that. You know what I'm saying? We don't end up with prosperous land and ownership. You see what I'm saying? All right. I believe the elder Elder Yashawamba, not Elder Yashawamba, Slakia. I believe it was Elder Ashiyar, you know what I'm saying, who went into the fact of what went down with these different prosperous so-called black communities, man, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, like Rosewood, you know what I'm saying, like Lake Lanier. Okay, all these different places. It was dozens of them. Okay, dozens of them, man. So we weren't allowed to have autonomous wealth. We weren't allowed to come together and actually build. You know what I'm saying? And be for ourselves, man. Right? And of course, there were native tribes that were assimilating as well. So the tribes was beginning to come together. And then what happens? And then here comes here comes the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden Esau comes in, okay, and let's teach these these people to want to cleave unto us, you know what I'm saying, or assimilate into our culture, you know what I'm saying, and be around us so that they can drink from water fountains. Okay? You see what I'm saying? Let me show you something real quick. All right, bear with me.
Black America once built a school so excellent that it outperformed every white school in the city. A black school, run by black scholars, teaching black children, beating every white high school in Washington, D.C. Black or white, private or public, it didn't matter. They won. And I want you to imagine what that did to white parents at the time. A country that had spent every dollar it had on convincing itself that black children were intellectually inferior, watching a black public high school produce more college graduates than any white school in the capital of the United States. That has to do something to a person who built their entire worldview on the lie that black people were less. The name of that school is Dunbar, and every black person in this country should know what we built there. So listen to who was at the front of these classrooms. Mary Jane Patterson was one of the early principals. Mary Jane Patterson was the first African-American woman to receive a degree in the United States of America. Oberlin, 1862. 3 years before the end of slavery, the first black woman in the entire country to hold a college degree. And she chose to run a black public high school in Washington, D.C. Another principal was Richard Greener, the first black graduate at Harvard College, the first in all of Harvard's history. He also chose Dunbar. Now I need you to sit with the teachers, right? Because the teachers at Dunbar were not regular teachers. Carter G. Woodson taught at Dunbar. The man who created Black History Week, which turned into Black History Month. The second Black American man in history to earn a PhD from Harvard. He taught high school. Anna Julia Cooper taught at Dunbar. One of the most important black female scholars this country has ever produced. Author of A Voice from the South. She taught high school. Mary Church Terrell taught at Dunbar. A co-founder of the NAACP. She taught high school. Kelly Miller taught at Dunbar. A Howard University dean. A pioneering black sociologist. He taught high school. Imagine being 13 years old, walking into a classroom, and the teacher in the front of that room is the most credentialed black scholar in America in that field. That is what Dunbar was. Now, y'all know I tell the whole truth, and I have to be honest about why Dunbar even had to exist in the first place, and why these scholars were teaching high school. It wasn't because they couldn't have taught anywhere else. It was because nowhere else would have them. These were black Americans with Ivy League degrees and PhDs with nowhere else to go, because this was a time when no white university would hire them. So this country's most brilliant black scholars, people who should have been chairs at departments at Harvard, at Yale, at Princeton, came to Dunbar instead and poured everything they had into black children, the most credentialed black minds in this country, in one school, teaching our babies. So you want to know what happens when you pour that much brilliance into black children? Charles Hamilton Houston came out of Dunbar, the architect of the legal strategy that won Brown v. Board of Education. the man Thurgood Marshall called his teacher. Benjamin O. Davis Sr. came out of Dunbar. The first black general in the U.S. Army, Robert Weaver, came out of Dunbar. The first black member of a presidential cabinet, Edward Brooke, came out of Dunbar. The first black U.S. senator since Reconstruction, the first black graduate of Annapolis, the first black federal judge, one of the first black women to earn a PhD in America. 6 Dunbar graduates have their faces on U.S. postal stamps. A study by the historian Horace Mann Bond found that more black Americans with PhDs came out of Dunbar than out of any other black high school in the country. One school, one building, in the basement of a Presbyterian church. 4 students in 1870. Now, I want every black person watching this to understand what that means. Our people built Dunbar with nothing. No foundation money, no federal support. Just black scholars who decided that black children deserved the same education that this country was refusing to give them. And those children grew up to break every barrier this country had erected.
Okay. So that's pretty much the brunt of it, man. Okay. If you want to talk about who's the children of Israel, then you have to talk about the curses that would be attached to them like glue. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 43. It says, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Again, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever." You see what I'm saying? That has not happened to the so-called European. You see? The scriptures say that that we would be, all right, the scriptures say that we would be a nation not desired, right? Real quick. All right, this is Zephaniah. Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. "Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired." All right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, all right, you are that nation that is not desired. You see what I'm saying? Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness, and it may be that ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. See what I'm saying? So we're out here talking to the hopeful elect, man. You know what I'm saying? Because we understand that according to prophecy, the overwhelming majority of you Israelites are not going to receive this truth in this fullness. You see what I'm saying? All right. When you go into who's in these prison houses, man, who predominantly are in these prison houses, right? Let's go to Isaiah. I believe it's Isaiah chapter 42. Isaiah chapter Slocky. Con, this is Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22. It reads, "But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore." You know what I'm saying? The whole cheekiness about this thing, man. And when you go back to the video that the elder Manata Zakba had showed, you know what I'm saying, at the beginning of this, and you had that baby face Edomite talking about, well, the only proof that we have that that Jesus is black, you know what I'm saying, quote unquote, okay, is that we've been waiting for over 2,000 years and we're his children and he never came back for us. You know what I'm saying? All right, calling the Heavenly Father and his beloved Son deadbeat dad. You see what I'm saying? So even in that, you know what I'm saying, we're still that byword in that proverb. Okay? We're still the brunt of it. We're still at the tip of everyone's jokes, man. All right? So let me get this. Okay? Since he wanted to say that, all right, and be cheeky about it, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, because all it does is just prove that we are the Israelites, man. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 54, excuse me, it says, "So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave." You see, these are the curses that you're looking at. All right, and the same can go on. You know what I'm saying? Look at the women; it's the same thing. All right. Let's go to let's see. Let's go back to Daniel. All right, because if I go, if I go by every point that this dude Rich Tidwell has made, you know what I'm saying, this video will be far too long. So let's go to Daniel chapter 9. All right, I brought this out during camp as well. Daniel chapter 9 and verse 7. "O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of faces, as at this day, to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their trespass that they have trespassed against thee." Verse 11. "Yea, all Israel has trespassed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of our power, because we have sinned against him. We were sinners." Verse 12. "And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem." And this is so evident to the point that the United Nations recently just voted that that chattel slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, was the most egregious act against humankind in history of humanity. And just a couple days ago, the Pope had made an open apology for the church's involvement in slavery, in slave trade. You see what I'm saying? This is Psalms chapter 92 and verse 5. It says, O Lord, how great are thy works, and thy thoughts are very deep. A brutish man knoweth not, neither doth a fool understand this. When the wicked spring as the grass, when the wicked spring as the grass, and when all the workers of iniquity do flourish, it is that they shall be destroyed forever. But thou, O Lord Yahweh, art the most high forevermore. For lo, thine enemies, O Lord, for lo, thine enemies shall perish. All the workers of iniquity shall be scattered. But my horn shalt thou exalt like the horn of a unicorn. I shall be I shall be anointed with fresh oil. Mine eye also shall see my desire on mine enemies, and mine ears shall hear my desire of the wicked that rise up against me. You see what I'm saying? What is salvation? Salvation is the children of Israel being delivered from the hands of their enemies, man. You see what I'm saying? This is why they're distancing themselves from what happened. This is why they're doing all of this, man. This is why they're erasing all the history from the Smithsonian Institute. Why they're erasing the history from these national parks. You see what I'm saying? Where they're trying to erase what they've done, man, and cover their tracks, is because they know that they've been caught red-handed. You see what I'm saying? The world doesn't hate you because you're the Israelites. No, the world hates you, white people, because of what you've done. The world hates you because of what you've done. You see what I'm saying? And what you are doing right in front of the whole world, you know what I'm saying? And nobody can ignore this. This is Luke chapter 1 and verse 68. It says, Blessed be the Lord power of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up an horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us. Let me show you something. Bear with me.
Videos featuring a stress relief toy nicknamed Natasha are going viral online and sparking major controversy. The doll resembles a small black baby, and in many clips, users squeeze it, stomp on it, throw it, and even run it over for content. The videos are usually framed as jokes or stress relief, and the trend has spread quickly across social media. What caught people's attention is that these toys come in multiple colors, yet the trend seems heavily focused on this specific version of the doll. That immediately made some viewers uncomfortable. As the clip spread online, reactions became divided. Some people dismissed it as harmless internet humor involving a squishy toy. Others argued the videos felt disturbing, especially because the doll appears to represent a black child while being used in violent or humiliating ways. The debate quickly moved beyond the toy itself and turned into a larger conversation about race, online behavior, and how far people push trends for views and engagement.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. You want to talk about, who the children of Israel are? All right. Unless you go into the root cause, okay, you're not going to be able to identify them. You see what I'm saying? Let's go here. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and verse 33. It reads, Thus saith Yahweh Tazabawath, the children of Israel And the children of Judah were oppressed together, both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. They were oppressed together. How are you Edomites, or shall I say, how are you Europeans, quote unquote? How are you being oppressed? You see what I'm saying? The only problems that you're having right now are the very problems that was prophesied to happen to you in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. All right, where it says that all these curses shall come upon those that hate us. You see what I'm saying? We, the children of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, man, okay, from Judah, the so-called Negroes, Benjamin, West Indians, Levi, the Haitians, Simeon, the Dominicanos, Zebulun, Guatemalans to Panamanians, Ephraim, the Puerto Ricans, Manasseh, Cubans, Gad, North American Indians, Reuben, Seminole Indians, Naphtali, the Argentinians to Chileans, Asher, Colombians to Uruguayans, and Issachar, the Mexicans. Okay? These Edomites, all right, shall I say, these so-called Europeans are so oppressed that the White House has made a separate page comparing the aliens to these so-called illegal immigrants. Did you see that? So, you know, you can say all you want to what you think the children of Israel are, man, but prophecy speaks louder than your haplogroups and all the stuff that you got going on. You know what I'm saying? All right. Prophecy speaks. And what you're seeing that's happening in real time, all right, where it says that I have seen princes upon the ground, you know what I'm saying, and servants upon horses, all right, that's happening, man. That's happening. Let's get that. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10 and verse 7. Let's start at verse 6. Ecclesiastes 10 and 6. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. You see what I'm saying? And that's going to switch around very soon, man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to cut that there. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. This has been your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. All right. In closing, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakha Kodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and who teach well. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.